Every NFL team has its own unique history when it comes to the trading business.
How you feeling about the deal?
Well, I think it was a great deal for both parties. And, I think you can't pick a better team to go to than the Minnesota Vikings.
All 32 clubs have experienced at least one franchise-altering move that changed everything for the better. With that being said, let's dive into every NFL team's greatest blockbuster trade that paid off with the best results. And a big shout out to Donald Polk for suggesting this video. Arizona Cardinals landing Chandler Jones from the Patriots. In the early stages of the 2016 offseason, the New England Patriots stunned many by dealing away star pass rusher Chandler Jones to the Cardinals for a second-round pick and offensive lineman Jonathan Cooper. In 6 seasons with the Cardinals, Jones racked up 71.5 sacks, a franchise best, along with 23 forced fumbles. Atlanta Falcons trading up for Julio Jones. At day 1 of the 2011 draft, the Falcons traded up with the Cleveland Browns to take Julio Jones 6th overall. Jones was the best wide receiver of that decade. He earned 7 Pro Bowl nods and led the league in receiving twice, also helping Atlanta to a Super Bowl 51 appearance. He left as the franchise leader in both receptions and receiving yards. Baltimore Ravens moving up for Lamar Jackson. The Ravens moved up in a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles so they could get the Louisville quarterback Lamar Jackson for the number 32 selection in 2018. All Jackson did as a rookie was replace an injured Joe Flacco and lead the Ravens to the AFC North Division title. He ran away with the NFL MVP award in 2019 and has made his case as the greatest dual-threat QB in league history. Buffalo Bills turning Tom Cousino into a Hall of Fame QB. The Bills drafted the Ohio State linebacker first overall in 1979, but he decided to head up north to play for the Montreal Alouettes of the CFL. Cousino opted to come back to the NFL in 1982, so the Bills traded away his rights to the Cleveland Browns for a 1983 first-round pick. That pick turned into Hall of Famer Jim Kelly, who led the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowl appearances in the 90s. Carolina Panthers snagging Greg Olsen from Windy City. The Panthers acquired Olsen from the Chicago Bears in exchange for a 3rd-round pick in the 2011 offseason. As a Panther, Olsen earned 3 Pro Bowl and 2 second-team All-Pro nods. He led Carolina to 3 NFC South Division titles and a wildcard berth in 2017. Olsen also helped the Panthers to a Super Bowl 50 appearance where they lost to the Denver Broncos. Chicago Bears trading up for Dick Butkus. The Bears traded away 2nd and 4th round selections to the Pittsburgh Steelers so they could move up and land Dick Butkus with the number 3 selection in 1964. Needless to say, the move worked out nicely for Chicago. Butkus only turned out to be the greatest middle linebacker in NFL history, a label that he still arguably owns. Butkus was a Pro Bowler in 8 of his 9 seasons, as well as a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Cincinnati Bengals, James Brooks. Ahead of the 1984 season, the Bengals traded away veteran running back Pete Johnson to the San Diego Chargers in exchange for James Brooks. The former was out of the NFL after 1 year. The latter was a 4-time Pro Bowler who led Cincy to a Super Bowl 23 appearance in the 1988 season. Cleveland Browns turning Mike Phipps into Ozzie Newsome. In 1977, the Browns traded underperforming quarterback Mike Phipps to the Bears in exchange for their 1978 first-round pick, which turned out to be the number 23 selection. That selection would be used to take one of the NFL's all-time great tight ends in Ozzie Newsome. You know, the 3-time Pro Bowler who has a bust in Canton. In Newsome's tenure with the Browns, the organization reached 3 AFC Championship games in the 80s decade. Dallas Cowboys Herschel Walker trade. You could write a novel on all the details of the Herschel Walker trade, but the long and short of it is this. The rebuilding Cowboys traded their star running back to the Minnesota Vikings in a package deal that netted them a king's ransom of picks. And that all added up to 3 Super Bowls in the 90s decade. Denver Broncos, the John Elway trade. I mean, what else was it going to be? The Baltimore Colts drafted John Elway first overall in 1983, but he had no desire to play for them. So they wound up sending him to the Broncos in exchange for Chris Hinton, Mark Herman, and a 1984 first-round pick. Elway turned out to be one of the all-time great NFL quarterbacks, leading Denver to 5 Super Bowl appearances and 2 championships. Detroit Lions, the Bobby Lane trade. In 1950, the Lions acquired quarterback Bobby Lane from the New York Yanks in exchange for wideout Bob Mann. All Lane did was piece together a Hall of Fame career that saw him lead the Lions to 3 NFL championships in the 50s. Green Bay Packers, the Brett Favre trade. After spending one season as a backup in Atlanta, Favre was traded to the Green Bay Packers in the 1992 offseason for the number 17 pick in that year's draft. We'd say it worked out pretty well for the Cheeseheads. Favre revived the once proud franchise in the 90s by leading them to a Super Bowl 31 championship, plus another big game appearance the following year. Houston Texans trading up for Deshaun Watson. Houston acquired the number 12 pick from Cleveland in exchange for their 2017 and 2018 first-round picks. Watson's tenure in Houston ended on a fairly sour note, but he led his team to 2 AFC South Division titles and served as the franchise's first true superstar quarterback. Indianapolis Colts sending Jeff George to Atlanta. The Colts wasted the top pick of the 1990 draft on QB Jeff George, who never even came close to reaching expectations. Yet somehow, they managed to get 2 firsts and a third-rounder from Atlanta in a 1994 Blockbuster trade that sent George to the Falcons. One of those first-rounders, for the 1996 draft, turned into Hall of Fame wideout Marvin Harrison. The George trade also helped Indy suck enough so they could win the Peyton Manning sweepstakes in 1998. Jacksonville Jaguars, getting Mark Brunell from Packers. Ahead of the 1995 draft, the expansion Jaguars landed Brunell from Green Bay for 3rd and 5th round picks. All Brunell did was lead the Jaguars to AFC Championship game appearances in the 1996 and 99 seasons. The 3-time Pro Bowler is also the franchise's passing yards and passing touchdowns leader by a very wide margin. Kansas City Chiefs, moving up for Patrick Mahomes. At the 2017 draft, they traded their 1st and 3rd round picks plus a 2018 first rounder to the Buffalo Bills for the number 10 pick. KC drafted Mahomes with that selection. And yeah, I think you all know how that turned out. Las Vegas Raiders snagging Willie Brown from the rivals. The standout corner played with the Broncos from 1963 to 66. But in 1967, the great Al Davis reached an agreement to acquire Brown from the Raiders' rivals. Brown led the Raiders to a 1967 AFL championship and a Super Bowl XI championship. He also happened to be on the coaching staff for the Raiders' other 2 Super Bowl championship teams. Los Angeles Chargers, the 2004 draft blockbuster. The Chargers used the first selection of 2004 on Eli Manning, but he had no desire to play for them. So he was traded to the New York Giants for fellow 2004 draftee Phillip Rivers, along with additional draft picks that turned into future star linebacker Sean Merriman and 2-time Pro Bowl kicker Nate Kading. Los Angeles Rams, Marshall Faulk completes greatest show on turf puzzle. Faulk had 5 productive years with the Colts, but sought a trade because of a contract dispute. So he was sent to the RB-needy Rams, and, well, we would say everything worked out pretty nicely there. Falk and Kurt Warner headlined the greatest show on turf, leading the Rams to a Super Bowl 34 championship and another NFC title in the 2001 season. Miami Dolphins, trading for Don Shula. The Dolphins managed to convince Don Shula to leave his head coaching gig in Baltimore for Miami, but as compensation, Commissioner Pete Rozelle gifted the Colts Miami's 1971 first-rounder, which turned into Don McCauley. Shula coached the Dolphins to 2 Super Bowl championships, including a perfect season in 1972. Oh, and his 328 regular season wins are the most ever for a head coach. Minnesota Vikings, reacquiring Fran Tarkenton. Tarkenton played with the Vikings from 1961 to 66 before getting traded to the Giants in 1967. After 5 years there, Minnesota reacquired the star quarterback in a package deal that sent Norm Snead the other way. In his second tenure with Minnie, Tarkenton won the 1975 NFL MVP and Offensive Player of the Year honors. He also guided the team to 3 Super Bowl appearances, New England Patriots, stealing Bill Belichick from the Jets. One day after being hired as the Jets' new head coach, Belichick stunningly resigned at a press conference. As it turned out, Robert Kraft managed to recruit him to coach the Patriots. As part of the compensation, the 2 teams exchanged 2 late-round picks, and the Jets got New England's 2000 first-rounder. But all Belichick did was turn the Patriots into the NFL's model organization of the 21st century, with 6 Super Bowl championships over an 18-season span from 2001 to 2019. New Orleans Saints, turning Pat Swilling into Willie Roaf. In 1993, New Orleans traded its 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker to the Lions in exchange for 1st and 4th round picks. That 1993 first-rounder was the number 8 selection, which New Orleans used on Louisiana Tech offensive lineman Willie Roaf. The Hall of Famer was a 6-time first-team and 3-time second-team All-Pro who racked up 11 Pro Bowl nods. New York Giants, the Manning for Rivers swap. The Eli Manning for Phillip Rivers blockbuster was one of the most mutually beneficial trades in all of football history. Manning spent his entire 16-year career with the G-Men, leading them to Super Bowl 42 and 46 championship victories over the mighty Patriots. New York Jets, acquiring Joe Namath from Houston Oilers. The Houston Oilers traded their first-round pick in the 1964 AFL draft to the Jets for promising young QB Jerry Rome. But he decided to join the NFL's Dallas Cowboys instead. That first-round pick in 1964 turned out to be the top selection, which the Jets used on Joe Namath. Broadway Joe won 2 AFL MVPs and led the Jets to a Super Bowl III championship. Philadelphia Eagles taking a chance on Norm Van Brocklin. Just a few months after retiring in 1958, Van Brocklin decided that he wanted to resume his career. So the Rams traded him to the Eagles in exchange for a draft pick and players Jimmy Harris and Buck Lansford. Van Brocklin earned Pro Bowl honors in each of his 3 seasons with the Eagles. He had a swan song season for the ages in 1960, winning the league MVP award while also leading the Eagles to an NFL championship win. Pittsburgh Steelers, betting on Jerome Bettis. At the 1996 draft, the Rams sent the bus to the Steelers on draft day, plus a 3rd rounder for 2nd and 4th round picks. Bettis enjoyed a Hall of Fame career and earned 4 Pro Bowl nods as a Steeler, and he helped them to a Super Bowl 40 championship in his final NFL season. San Francisco 49ers, getting a younger QB. The 49ers already had a franchise QB in Joe Montana, but Bill Walsh saw something special in Steve Young. After 2 frustrating years in Tampa Bay, Young was traded to the 49ers in 1987. And that, folks, is how the 49ers kept their dynasty going. An elbow injury forced Montana to miss all of 1991 and all but 1 game in 1992. So Young stepped in as the starter and never looked back. Young's success allowed San Fran to trade Montana away to Kansas City in 1993. Young went on to win 2 MVP awards and led the 49ers to a Super Bowl 29 championship. Seattle Seahawks, making a beast mode move. Coin flip here between Steve Largent and beast mode, but it's hard to envision the Seahawks winning Super Bowl 48 and 2 NFC championships without Lynch, whom the Hawks acquired in a 2010 midseason trade with Buffalo. So we're gonna say Skittles gets the nod here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers nabbing 2 Hall of Famers at the 95 draft. At the 1995 draft, the Eagles moved up to number 7 so they could take Mike Mamula. Meanwhile, Tampa moved down to the number 12 spot and selected future Hall of Fame defensive tackle in Warren Sapp. And Tampa used one of the 2nd rounders they got from Philadelphia so they could trade up with Dallas to select another future Canton member and linebacker Derek Brooks at number 28 overall. Without those 2, the Bucs don't win Super Bowl 37. Tennessee Titans, the Jared Goff trade. Ahead of the 2016 draft, the Titans traded the 1st overall pick to the Rams in exchange for a bundle of selections. The Rams then used the top pick on QB Jared Goff. So, how did the Titans use their selections? The Titans haven't had a losing season since trading that 1st overall pick to the Rams. Washington Commanders, Sonny Jurgensen. In 1964, the Eagles traded Jurgensen to Washington in a mega move that brought fellow QB Norm Snead over to Philly. Let's just say this trade was a lopsided win for Washington. Jurgensen spent 11 seasons in DC. He led the NFL in passing yards 3 times as a Commander and helped them to the postseason 3 times. But which other NFL blockbuster trades paid off for your team? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.